Everybody, and a fine sunny afternoon it is here in Belfast. Happy Easter, Easter Sunday. For everybody who came on last week, obviously you remember we had a good old chat with Dad about his story in the Denny Stones and stuff like that, so focus on the father and son thing. You know, it's obviously Donald Denny in his day refers to his father lifting the stones, and for me there was kind of three challenges that Denny laid down that day. He laid down obviously lifting the stones, one in either hand. He laid down the challenge of carrying the stones, the 17 feet 1.5 inches. But he also was referring to his dad, you know, legacy. I mean, the whole thing about stone lifting is it passes down through the generations, you know. And so, I mean, father to son, you know, the father lifts it, becomes a man. He has a son, he grows into manhood, he lifts the stone, you know. So that whole sort of generational thing. So I'm going to call today's wee session Legacy. And I'm aware of, there's Corey Sedford, I think, and his son are actually planning to come over and lift the Denny Stones together, probably next year, in 2022. I know that Imlach Shearer's son, Paul, is working hard to do the same. But we have a good friend of the family. And before I go any further, I'm going to introduce my dad again. Hello, Dad.
Hello.
So, just on the father and son thing, we have a really good family friend, Dr Bill Crawford. For anybody that doesn't know Dr Bill Crawford, he's a prolific stone lifter, has been for many years. He writes for Milo, the strength magazine. He is a leading figure in the Iron Mind Strength Forum. He featured heavily in Stoneland, the documentary. But I mean, Bill's stone lifting has been amazing over the years. He's one of the first wave of guys who came through lifting the Denny Stones. So Bill has a big history. And I mean, we first met Bill, was it 2009 Bill first contacted you?
Yeah, that was over in Scotland.
Was it about the Milo article about 2009?
Oh yeah, the Milo magazine.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's when we first came across the Crawford family.
Bill made contact with me all those years ago.
He did.
Well, actually, it's 12 years ago.
About 12 years ago now, You know, so that was our first.
A real gentleman.
Yes, indeed. I met Bill. Actually, we met Bill for the first time.
I think it was
making Stoneland in 2016.
Together in
And then since then, I've met Bill over at the Arnolds. I was lucky enough to be over there. And while we were there, we met young Billy. And I said in my post last week, Billy was roughly about the weight of a good feed for Eddie Hall. So he was, you know, but he's not that now. I've been watching Billy's progress, and Billy has fairly sprouted. You know, he's a strong young man. I think he's 18. And I'll not get too much into the Crawford story because I'd like the Crawford family to tell the story and etc. But I think for us it's a very special thing, you know, to potentially have the Crawford family come over and carry on the father-son thing. They'll become the second after Dad and I, which would be great. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite the Crawford family. There he is there, young Billy, come on in. See now. There they go. Hey!
Hello, Jack.
Hey, Gary.
Hello, Stevie.
Hiya, Bill. Hiya, Billy.
Hiya, Bill. Hello, Billy.
How you doing?
We're good, thank you. Billy, you don't think you've actually met my dad yet, have you?
No.
Well,
Jack Shanks, it's pleased to meet you, Billy.
Crawford. It's great to have you guys. It's great to see you. It's been a while.
Definitely. It's been a couple of years.
I think it was 2017, Bill. It was the last time that the three of us were together, you know, and I think 2016 before that with Dad.
Yes.
So I hope I gave you a good enough intro there. I just wanted the people to know a wee bit of a background to who you are, and obviously the friendship between our families over the years.
Yes.
And I mean, for us, it's very exciting. You know, I was telling Dad about young Billy and his progress with the Stones, and I mean, he's doing some amazing stuff at the moment. You know, and I mean, I know the excitement that we felt, you know, whenever I kind of made the decision that I wanted to have a go at the Stones. So I'm sure you guys are feeling the same now, and you're in the thick of that journey. What kind of started that for you, Billy? I mean, was it something you always wanted to do, or did your dad kind of badger you into it?
It's mostly, you know, I've just seen it my whole life, and I've seen all of our friends and family lift the Denny Stones. It's just something I want to, you know, I want to carry on like a family tradition. One day I have my son do it, just have it keep going on for generations.
Brilliant. I mean, how big a part did your dad play in that? Was it something that you wanted to do yourself, or did you discuss it with Dad, or? You know, was it always kind of assumed that you would do this?
Well, we train on it. I mean, you had your father's implements with you.
Yeah.
Stones in the back, and they sit in the yard. I've drilled holes through them. We have pins in them with the rings. And we obviously have, you know, we do the shanks lifts all the times with the plates.
Yeah.
About it, we talk strategy. There are different ways to do it. And we were yesterday afternoon lifting, you know, pulling the stones and you know, just worked up to a decent lift, and it's mostly it's a practice. It's a way of life. It's not even something, you know, we don't just emphasize do it.
That's fantastic. I mean, for me, I mean, one of the one things I suppose, I'm not sure if it's a regret, but it's something I would love to have done was to train with Dad when he was at his strongest, you know. Obviously, I mean, I left until I was 50, which meant Dad was close to 80, you know. So obviously he's still strong, but not as strong as he was back in the day, you know.
No, not strong.
That's one thing I would love to have done, you know, is when Dad was going up to the big weights, and it's lovely that you guys are able to do this together.
Together, that's terrific. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Are you planning the lift, Bill? Whenever Billy comes over to make his attempt, will you be doing the same on the day?
Oh yes, I'll give it a run. I mean, I'm 58. I'll be, you know, 59 or 60 next summer by the time I come over.
You're much the same age.
Yeah, we're much the same age, you and I. Then, yeah.
No,
obviously,
I can still pull the weights. You know, big one is just like you said. It's the family tradition. I mean, you've got the Denny's, and then you've got. I'd like to. I mean, if we could put the Crawfords in that lineup as being father and sons who lifted the stones, you know, and to have done it on the same day, that'll be super special for us.
That would be amazing, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you will.
Oh, you will.
You will,
I have no doubt. I mean, I'm watching what Billy's pulling now. You know, and I mean, it's amazing. I was watching, was it 670 odd pounds side by side lift the other day, which was fabulous.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, great.
The stone out the back. Was that about 670, Billy? Yeah.
It was 670 with no hook grip for about 13 seconds. Yes.
Wow. Oh, no hook grip as well. Brilliant. Yeah, that's good stuff. That's impressive.
Oh, you're going to do great.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose, obviously, Dad and I, our big thing has always been the rings. So it has, you know. I mean, one of the things that obviously we all know about Bill is stone lifting is much wider than just the rings. You know, and with all the other stones that Bill lifts, I'm watching you now, Billy, lifting ones that. Was it 300-pound stone?
Yesterday? Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
No, it was 370 pounds.
Oh my goodness! Wow, that's fantastic. It is, you know. So you obviously have that wider thing as well. Would you be planning to come over and do more of the historic stones as well as the Denny's while you're over?
Yes, I'd like to do the Inver stone too.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we have a bit of news about the Inver stone. Yeah, obviously, June Richard passed away, which is very sad. So that it has been moved up now to Braemar. We'll have the Braemar Games.
Oh, right.
We ran the gathering last year. We had to do it virtually because obviously with COVID we weren't able to run a physical gathering. So when we did that, we actually we sold a lot of T-shirts for it, and the T-shirts profit all went to him to make it like a wee memorial for June and for the Inver stone. So that's going to be built at Braemar. We have some ideas that we're just finalising now. We're working with Braemar. We need to get their sign off on it. But I would say within the next few months, hopefully we should have something there. And that's where the Inver stone will reside, and there'll be a nice monument to June and a bit of history about the stone, and the stone will be available for lifting all being well. So that's something to look forward to.
Yes, definitely. That's very nice, yes.
Yes, well, that underscores what this whole thing's about, is that the stones themselves are fantastic, and to find good stones or have historic stones, but it's the people who lay their hands on the stones, or have been a part of the history of these stones, particularly for over the ages. I mean, think about it. They're, you know, if you like rugby or if you like soccer, what we call soccer or football, you footballs that were played with by the historic players. You don't. These are stones that you can literally, that Donald Denny lifted, that you yourself and actually go try. Or the Inver stone, you actually lifted and you can go try them. And the names of the people that have laid their hands on those stones, many of them we don't even know who they are.
Yeah,
their names. I can just see them over these stones speaking Gaelic to each other
you know, encouraging each other or trying to fathom how to lift them. And then there's like the Denny stones, you know, Jack, when you lifted them, they were the unliftable stones. No one was doing them barehanded. Some people had done
That's almost 50 years ago.
Oh, yeah. They were the unliftable stones. I read some things about them from pre-1973. Jeff Capes is here to go. That's, yeah. Some people said that they were, you know, that they were unliftable. It was particularly and you showed up and did it, like that article. That article
over 100.
Yeah.
He's my favorite picture of all time with you, Jack. Though is, you know, obviously wearing a tie, lifting the Denny stone. That's also Belfast. You've got a car and you're lifting the back end of 2 cars. I think a girl was sitting on one of them, on the top of one of them. It's like it's not heavy. On top of it.
There's a story about that, Bill, by the way. The first time that ever happened, the Marine Commandos were based at Tennant Street, where I was during the Troubles.
In Belfast.
In Belfast. And there was a guy come over from Paris, and they were doing an article on the Marine Commandos. And they'd heard about me doing the Denny stones, and they say, could you do something? This was the first time I think I ever did it. But anyway, they said, well, could you not make it more glamorous? So they thought, well, maybe we could get the office girl out. So that was okay. We got the office girl out, and she got up on the roof of my car. I lifted the car and then went the roof. But luckily enough, it bounced out again.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I've always remembered that, that photograph.
Yeah,
that was a great photograph.
Yeah, no, that's not the photograph that Bill's talking about. Yeah, that was a later one. That was a slim girl.
Okay. Well, that was another thing, you know, to talk about the father-son thing. I mean, obviously my main focus over the years was to lift the Denny stones. But once that was kind of done and behind me, I kind of started looking at that old photograph of Daz. I was like, I'd love to do that. You know, so it took me a while to find a couple of minis. And the smaller car was a wee Honda. It was a wee light car in your left hand. So I couldn't find one of those. But we got 2 minis, and it turned out one of them was all rusty and full of water. And it was really heavy.
But you got it.
Well, we got it up. We got it up the end, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Billy, would you follow the history of the stones as much as your dad, or do you kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to lift all the stones in Scotland that, you know, my dad lifted. Do all the stones.
That'll be fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing all the videos coming up. I mean, obviously back in Dad's day, you know, when he did it, there was photographs is all we really had back then. But I mean, it's great now we have all the videos and we can keep these things forever. You know, that's.
Well, thanks to Jim Spillane,
Yeah, Jim's doing a great job on that. You know, he provides all of the videos. You know, and I have that wee website there, so we're able to preserve the whole thing in one area. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to is to put your entry in, Billy.
Yes.
Yep.
Put your entry
in.
Well, yes, definitely, yes. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be awesome, yeah. But
you'll do that all right, Billy. You'll do that okay.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously, you just don't sort of start training with rings, you know, and just go immediately into it. You obviously have a wee bit of background, Billy, in weightlifting, because, I mean, the last time I seen you, like I said, you were just over 100 pounds body weight, maybe. And you're a lot more than that now. So you've obviously been training, you know, and building yourself up over the last few years.
Yes. Right now I'm about 191 centimeters and about 103 kilos. So I've grown.
Okay. That's about 230 pounds.
Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah. Oh, you're a big guy.
Yeah. You're definitely not wee Billy anymore.
No.
But since then, I've been training a lot of just, you know, Olympic weightlifting and all the powerlifting movements. And on top of that, I've been doing stone lifting and ring lifts. And those have actually helped a lot with all my other lifts too. So,
would you do much by way of one hand deadlifts and hack lifts, the sort of things that Dad would have done, or the old odd lifts? You get involved in that?
About 2 months ago, we have a Duffalo bar, which is like an arc barbell, and I did 405 one-handed without hook grip on that. But lately, I did a lot of ring work and stuff. Was it 2 weeks? I got 815 on the Denny Stone rings with no hook grip and held it for a couple of seconds. But overall,
very good. Yeah.
Yeah. The beauty about it is because we're slightly older gentlemen, we remember pounds. So this all means actually the pounds actually means more to me. I can visualise the weights more when we talk of pounds, which is great.
Kilos.
Yeah.
Because we talk to so many places and we try to.
Yeah,
I have yes, they have pounds probably. I have a history of being an Olympic lifter too, so I always talk kilos. But
yes.
It's great to watch him train, and he's gotten a lot better at, when I say, and I'm sure your dad probably did the same with you, to say, let me show you something. Let me let me tell you what I think about this.
Yeah.
Because anything I say is built on not just experience, but my personal mistakes. How to do something correctly or not. And also, too, just sort of how you build up over a period of time. And how's the best way to get to a place. It's not, it's just like if you wanted to train to run a marathon, you wouldn't walk outside and run a marathon. You have to build yourself up. And even if you possibly run that distance, you're probably going to be hurt or not really make a very good time. So your goal is to have, methodical training that's well set up, and you give yourself that amount of time and just have a program, to be able to do those kind of things. So he's been a lot more methodical. He's learned a lot himself. He's an exercise physiology major in college.
Okay. Wow.
For him. So he goes through this process and then makes an achievement like this. There'll be the lessons learned. It's the journey anyway. You know that.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, yeah.
Lifting the stones, Stevie, your this whole background with your father and all the other people, and you lifted those stones. The first time I saw it, I was jumping up and down for you. Because I know
yeah, it was a hell of a moment. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I've always said to Dad, and the reason that we recorded everything, it wasn't so much, for obviously you put stuff on Facebook as you go along, but for me, I can look back now and see, the first 500-pound lift, the first 550, the 600-pound barrier going, the 300-kilo barrier. I remember breaking 700-pound for the first time.
I have them all recorded.
Yeah, Dad used to write them all down and all the numbers and the combinations of the weights and stuff, because he would always done that for himself.
Yeah.
So it was really, really nice, to now look back, that it's a job well done behind us. Because those are the things that I remember, was out in Dad's, before we even had the rings, because I don't know if you remember, but around about 2006, Dad gave all his plates and all his rings away to Tony Atchison over in Scotland. And when I was training for this, all we had was Dad's old barbell, and literally, all the wee 5-pound weights and 10-pound weights. And we made literally about this wide on the head of the bar. We were hanging stuff off it just to try and get a bit of weight on it. And putting it all on a rack.
That was the early days, yeah.
That was the early days, and then we managed to, Tony was very kind to give us back all the training stuff.
Thanks to Tony.
Yes, so it was good having access to all of that, and obviously the history that surrounded that was very important to me. So it's great that you're now training Billy with your dad's stuff,
Yeah.
I think that's important, because that's all part of, like you say, the journey, the start to finish. It's you start your training, you're successful at the end, but it's the bit in between you remember.
Yeah. That's great. And getting back to what you said there, Bill, about the Olympics, I remember you saying that you clean and jerk well over 400 pounds.
Yes, that was a long time.
I think that's very good.
Impressive.
I never forgot that.
And a 400-pound round deadlift is very impressive too. That's 180.
Yeah, but the clean and jerk now.
Yeah, that's very good.
Over 400 is something. Yeah, it really is.
It's more flexible. I'll leave it at
that. Actually, I know about the flexibility thing. Being in the late 50s, I know exactly what you mean.
Well, I still remember that, Bill, anyway, about you.
Yes, that was something I was, happy to do. And that was, as an Olympic sport, I was very proud. So I was very happy that I'm still proud of that accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. Because in my early days of weightlifting, that year, that would have been near a world record. In my early days when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was it you were putting in?
Oh, nothing compared to that.
250?
Yeah. You remember Anderson, don't you?
What's that, sorry, Bill?
the 1956 Olympic champion, the great, what many people consider the father of powerlifting, Paul Anderson, American weightlifter.
Yeah.
So,
and the great John Davis.
Growing up in the southern United States and going around, the reason I really shot for, I actually was trying to chase Paul because I'd go to a meet and they'd say the state record is still held by Paul Anderson.
Yeah.
Like the late 1970s, early 1980s. And they'd say, Paul Anderson's clean and jerk at 405 pounds or something still stands.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I break that. So I did it in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina. For me to say that I broke Paul Anderson's record, to me was a little disingenuous because he also pressed 400 pounds Olympic style, which I could never dream of doing.
Yeah.
And, his strength levels were on another plateau and plane. And plus we had bumper plates and fancy shoes and good bars, and they lifted on no telling what everything on.
Anything they could get their hands on, basically, yeah.
Yeah. I remember those days, well, I'd probably been only a teenager. You heard of Doug Hepburn?
Yes.
Hepburn, he pressed 360 for a world record. And now that's nothing compared to what they do.
Well, Paul Anderson did the first 400-pound Olympic press at High Point YMCA, where I first started lifting weights with my uncle, my great uncle actually, who had trained with Paul and lifted with Paul in competition. That's how I got started weightlifting. Was Paul Anderson to me was this this place up here, and not only as a weightlifter man, I knew that he started that youth home. And the ability to be around him or people that knew him, and trained with him, or had been available to help me understand who he was. The first time I saw Paul, I was 13, and I heard this. It was at a church, and it was late November, and it was the weekend after Thanksgiving, which is the last week of November. And it was in Georgia, and it was cold kind of that day and blustery, and everyone's in jackets. And we went to the basement of this church, and I heard this rumbling, and here comes Paul rolling this dumbbell across the concrete floor with his cowboy boot.
Oh, wow.
Big belt buckle that said Jesus. And he had a seersucker shirt, and he was sweating. And with no warm-up, I talked to my uncle later, my great uncle later, and it had to have been at least a 250-pound dumbbell.
Wow.
And he cleans his shoulder 3 reps. And puts it down.
Wow, with no warm up, eh?
That's what I want to be him.
I understand that, all right. Yeah.
Well, those were mighty men.
Paul Anderson was amazing. I mean, I know they did when Eddie and Brian Shaw and all the guys were doing that the strongest man in history. They featured Paul Anderson's achievements and some of the stuff that he done.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
The weights he was lifting.
For his day, he was brilliant, yeah.
But even today, a lot of this stuff holds up, doesn't it?
The Russians still admire him, they consider him to be in the realm of Vasily Alexeyev because he really jolted the world of athletics, of what's possible from a human being. Not just weightlifting, but everybody. Everybody went, wait a minute, this guy he's doing things that aren't possible. How did this happen? And his training, he was doing things, like you've seen the pictures of him standing in a hole with a squat bar, or the train wheels on a bar, and how heavy he trained. He dug a hole and put the barrels on each side and kept throwing dirt in it until finally he could just squat 1,200 pounds from the bottom up. He was just so far ahead of his time in training, always thinking about nutrition and training and sequence and implements to work with. Every time I lay my hands on a trap bar, I think, Paul Anderson would really love a trap bar. Say trap bars. I bet you that Paul Anderson would have loved training on that trap bar.
I think so, yeah. That's what Dad's training on now. I mean, he started to use a trap bar off the racks, you know, just to help his back, his strength. Yeah.
I find if I walk in any distance now, Bill, my back gets painful. And I had noticed when I'm pushing a trolley about in Asda that I could walk all day. So I thought if I maybe strengthened the lower back a little bit. Now, I still exercise with the rowing machine and things like that. So I'm doing a wee bit of hack lifting from knee height just to strengthen the lower back.
Hack lifts, yes. Other favorite thing I will go at sometimes is just, you know, without a hook grip, just straight bar deadlifts from without the stagger grip on the bar. Just reach down and
well, I never used the hook grip in anything, only the rings. I never heard of it, and but just because of the rings to fill the round part to make it straight. That's a good story. But any lifting ever I did was ordinary grip.
I was watching one of Bill's videos the other day, and that deadlift was just 2 hands over the top. He pulled. Was it over 500 pounds, Bill? You pulled the other day on that?
5.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because the bar spins.
Yeah. So that's obviously everybody does that. I would stick our thumbs in, but that's just a standard double overhand deadlift over 500 pounds.
So just the overhand grip, it still gets some heavy weights in, but just work your grip.
Oh yeah. I mean, the most I ever got onto that, I think, was about 400. It was, you know. So, I mean, another £100 on top of that's incredible. That's Frank Stevatoni kind of stuff there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what about you, Billy? Are you using that to sort of help strengthen your grip, or what sort of techniques are you using, or training methods are you doing for your grip?
For me, for Billy,
Billy, yeah.
Mostly for my grip work and stuff like that. I'm doing a lot of double overhand deadlifts. I'm doing ring work probably twice a month because if I do it too much, I tire my hands out like crazy. But the rings, I try to not use hook grip at all, and I use a lot of the Captains of Crush grippers from Ironman too.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing that you used a lot when you were younger was the grippers.
That
contributed to your strength.
Nothing compared to what they have now.
Oh, obviously the quality of them.
Very cheap things, yeah.
Yeah, but you always said that it was a big part in your grip strength.
Yeah.
So to work my grip, I got a 2x12, and I would put it on top of my power rack. Up and do chin ups with my fingertips. And when you weigh, 260 or 70 pounds, and you can do chin ups like this, because stone lifting, it's in your fingertips, regular stone lifting. So I said, well, what do I need to do? And it was about exactly the same width that you would put under your hands. And I think that's when I started really pulling the larger stones, doing those kind of things to be creative, to that, or just doing, we got a chin-up bar, and I've shown Billy how to do just, I call them claw grip chins. You just reach do this without actually gripping it. So I'm sure you've had other things that you've done as well.
You grip that, or do you put down deals and stuff in that?
I used to do chin-ups with 256-pound weights tied around me. Across the wrist space.
Yes, so I remember that, yeah.
That's great.
I remember you used to do with the 6-inch nails, you used to break those.
Oh, they burn you.
They would burn you because you used to get really warm.
No, not very much.
I actually, when I was training for Denny's, I didn't do an awful lot of specific grip work because I always find, when I employed the thumb grip, that it worked for me. So I just decided to stick with that. And actually concentrate on just the actual sort of pulling power, to actually get the weights off the ground. I always felt the thumb grip very comfortable. A lot of people talk about the pain involved with it, but for me it was, I always used it from the lighter weights up. So I mean, it would be like maybe a couple of £100 on the rings to start off with, and I put my thumbs in there, and I found it conditioned. And when you get up into the heavier weights, obviously I do a lot now, on barbells and that, to make sure that I maintain my hand strength. But I mean, I never really did much leading up to the stones.
Just before I was diagnosed with blood pressure, I tried myself out on the straddle lift, Bill, from knee height, and I almost got £1,000. I did now this was the ordinary grip, 970, and you took a photograph,
yeah.
and 990 moving, but I couldn't straighten.
I think you had that in the Milo article.
So I never got the 1,000.
Yes.
Speaking of the Milo, I just happen to have a copy here. What are the chances of that?
But thanks for that, Bill. Thank you.
Oh, well, that was a great article to write. I think that's when we first started really corresponding together. David Webster was very instrumental in that, obviously, to get your information so that we could talk on the phone and you could send me different things. And the Milo articles that I wrote, that's one of my very, very favorite ones. It's really a treasure trove. Plus the picture.
Yeah. Well, that was the first time I sort of heard your name mentioned. Obviously, when you had contacted us, obviously the first thing I did was go on the internet and look you up to see what you'd done, you know. But I mean, and I got involved in the Iron Mind forum, which is a great forum for strength. You know, it's because I mean, yes, it focuses on Denny's, but it's such a wide coverage of all different forms of strength, which is a fantastic sort of resource even for people, you know, checking stuff out. You know, because there's so many topics covered in it.
Well, I think, you know, Milo's gone out of publication for the last couple of years, and I miss it a lot. I've been in contact with Randall Strawson about 2 years ago, and I keep touching. He just emailed me back. You know, we just touch base every couple 3 months, and I said, "Miss Milo, what do you have? Can you bring it back or do something else? It'd be nice to have him bring it back." There was nothing, and I don't think there's anything like that right now because there's something about the printed word also. That I don't know about your websites and, you know, those kind of things, but you just don't go back and forth and you can't lay your hands on them. I guarantee you in 100 years, these books will still be around.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And a lot of the online articles will have been buried, you know, or deleted or lost when the websites go down, yeah. No, I get that, Bill, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It really does. So I think that's something that, you know, we should really consider doing again. And I also know that a lot of people just like to have the print in their hands. Yeah, I just like the way it looks and feels, and then you can pass it down and you can give, you know, do you gift anybody a video?
Yeah, I know, you don't really. No, definitely not. I mean, it's the latest ones that I've been reading, obviously, are James Graham's book and Martin Janksik's books. You know, I mean, they've been great. And I know there's more stuff coming along now from James, carrying on Peter Martin's work, which I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Well, that book that I wrote with Martin, you know, we had a discussion about that. How do we do this? Mm-hmm. We should write it. You put it down on paper and have it bound. Make a published book. Yeah. And, you know, actually have those thoughts put into it. I think that when you start talking about how do you make this everlasting,
yeah,
ones themselves are a monument, and they're physical, and you can lay your hands on them. The same thing, you can physically lay your hands on them. So I think that's what we need to consider in the future to make sure that this lives on.
Yeah, and it was great to see you involved in that project as well. You know, I have to say I thought that the choice of photographs on the cover was fantastic.
It was. It's good.
Oh, right.
Modest as ever.
Oh, modest as ever. You're middle name, Stephen. Yeah.
Well, what about the Arnolds this year, Bill? Has there been anything? I haven't really seen anything about this year.
Probably September. I looked at the web. They're still saying possibly September. I don't want to speak too much. I'm in on the, you know, kind of like the emails, and I don't think we actually have a date. Unfortunately, it's also the same weekend the New Hampshire Highland Games.
That's a big event, yeah.
If they run together, I've got to make some decisions, but you know, that's kind of where we are with that.
No, that's a good one.
And I want to mention, you know, we're talking about the film Stoneland Rogue. Has really, really helped. Terry Todd and Jan Todd and Rogue has been a fantastic resource, because really, when you start talking about, you know, David wrote his book in 1973 that had the piece in the back, Jack, that you know about, his Highland Games history. David Webster book. But actually, that wasn't his first. His first was from 1959.
Wow.
bound in either cloth or leather. I've got two of them.
Is that the little small one?
It's a small one, yes.
Yeah, I've got it.
That
Yeah,
one, yeah.
yeah.
Which is the one from 1973, and then he wrote the definitive one, I think, which is the World History of Highland Games, which has a lot.
Yeah.
But those descriptions of stone lifting inside of that, it really inspired a lot of ideas about stone lifting. So then Terry Todd got involved with that. And World's Strongest Man was born on the playing fields of Scotland, right?
Yep.
Terry Todd was involved with it, and they made that historic journey to Scotland in 1979 with Bill Crawford and he pressed Denver Stone and
Yeah.
Bill Cosme.
Fantastic.
an exposure, at least in America.
Yeah.
That publication, Sports Illustrated, is around the world, and it really gave a lot of impetus into, what about other odd objects? We just keep pulling on barbells to see who's strong, but there are other things you can do that are much more of a challenge. And I think that's one of the things that intrigues people. It's sort of like, a really difficult scientific issue or a mathematic problem that so simple takes so much to overcome. And that boiled down simplicity, that's one of the things that really intrigues people. And so that's what David and then you, Jack, and then Terry all understood, that these seemingly simple things took something much more complex and interesting to get to the point of being able to do something or to expose it to other people. So,
Well, I mean, I suppose, when you think about the implements that everybody would have used back in the day, even in my dad's time, and we didn't have, Rogue making all these fancy implements, and to such a high standard. But so you had to pretty much, go to your local ironmongery and see what they would make you up, or use, like you say, Bill, for using your wooden plank to strengthen your fingers. You just made do, improvised, and I love all that.
Yeah. But Bill, talking about those old days, what year did I carry? It was from 73, was it? 73. David Webster took me to the Highland Games afterwards. And
Bankery, was it?
no, it wasn't Bankery. Not this year's moment, just can't remember at the moment. But I met Bill Anderson and Henry Gray.
yes.
Those two names ring a bell with you.
Oh,
Yes, Henry Gray was he did the two-hand carry with the smaller stone about probably about, was it 50 or 70?
Yes. A lovely man.
20. And when 20.
You want to see the size of hands? He had massive hands.
sorry, Bill, you were breaking up a wee bit there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so yes, Henry Gray was he two-hand carried the smaller of the stones for I think 50 feet at the Aberdeen Music Hall when they had one of those strength exhibitions that David.
Was it a two-hand carry, Bill, or was it a one-hand carry?
I thought it was a one-hand.
I think he carried it with his left hand, if I remember right from the photographs.
He
Which
carried
makes it more amusing, yeah.
Cleghorn stone. You know the Cleghorn stone? Instead of two hands with one hand. But that's Henry Gray, correct?
Yeah.
Athlete also.
Yeah.
And
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
was Bill Anderson's, he's
Oh, yeah. For legendary status, yeah.
Yeah. And a gentleman. Yeah.
Knees and hands, just a giant of a man. Natural ability, unbelievable athlete. And I got a chance to meet Bill, obviously, and talk with him, and he signed those off. But back to the whole thing with, starting this whole thing about the printed word, Stoneland, the other movies about stone lifting that Rogue has done have been very, very important. Think about the exposure. I remember when they first called, Terry contacted me and said, we started the idea like, okay, how do you make a movie about stone lifting in Scotland? And they're like, we think 1 million people will watch this. And I said, you're going to have 20 million people watch that movie. And I think other exposures, I think it's in the 45 million range. Imagine.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I know that it actually appeared on Netflix. They combined Levantadores and the Stoneland one and the Icelandic one. They combined the three of them and they called it Strongland. And it appeared on Netflix, which is a kind of like a streaming movie site over here.
Well,
So that was actually there for about a year and a half. I think it's gone now off Netflix, but it was, that was nice to see that.
Yeah.
You'll see it on YouTube. I think one of the most special part of that movie for me is when we brought the Denny Stones back to and to see to Patark from Aboyne. You, Jack, and Stevie, and Jan, and Terry, and David especially, and everyone who was there, and to be a part of that. Martin, what an honor to be able to take those stones off the back of the trailer and put them back home. I didn't feel
Great
in that position, but that was an unbelievable moment. I still get, a little emotional about that. I wish.
I tell you what, I mean, I know exactly what you mean, because I still get goosebumps sometimes when I look back at that, on that part of the movie. And that was what actually gave me the idea for the gathering. Because I remember thinking, because we had Brett Nicol was there, we had Martin Janksics, who hadn't lifted the stones at that point, but went on to lift them. So in total there were 7 of us, including John, who had lifted the Denny stones, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if all of us were together, so that's when I started looking, through the old records that Gordon Denny had created and contacting lifters. And I think on their first gathering we had, which was focused on the Denny stones and Denny stone lifters, there was over 30 previous lifters there, which was lovely to see that many people in one place.
Yeah, that was the very first.
Because I remember the feeling that I got meeting you for the first time, and and chatting to David Webster and to John, and obviously I'd become good friends with Brett Nicol at the time. He's lifted them more times than you could count. And Martin turned up, was the first I'd met Martin, so it was a very special time.
Yes.
And that's why I'm looking forward so much now to you and Billy coming over, because to me, when you and Billy come over to the gathering, hopefully if we're able to run it this year, that'll be almost like completing the circle for me a wee bit.
Yes, definitely so. I think that again, we're back to these are it's down to the people. That's why I enjoy the Clata Fiana so much, the Fiana stone.
Yeah,
it's been there for probably 1,500 years. I think it's Scottish. I think it's a Pictish stone. Peter Martin had done a lot of research. Speaking of Peter Martin, and you really look at it, it has a. I'll just leave it at this. It looks like something that might have been used in a fertility ritual.
Okay, yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, yep. But I mean, it's great to see all these stories written down now. I was talking to a chap there a couple of weeks ago called Jamie Gorian. And I mean, Jamie's such a prolific stone lifter. He's out trying to find ones that haven't been found, and he's finding some stones that I've never heard of. Not that I've heard of all the stones, but he's uncovering new ones all the time. Yeah, but more importantly, he's uncovering the history of them.
Yeah.
So I said to him, because he would put it on his Facebook, I found this stone and here's the story. And I mean, that's a post that'll disappear. I mean, 2 days' time, that's away down his list, so it's never going to get seen again, So I said, you need to start writing this down, even tie in with the likes of James Graham, Martin Janksics, get all this down. I said I'd be happy to put it on my website, but as you say, Bill, the written word, once it's there, it's there forever.
Well, Peter Martin wrote thousands of pages, and I have them in binders downstairs. And we also, I had him speak with Jan and Terry, and they went on a pre-Stoneland trip.
Okay.
To meet him, so they were able to get in that loop of all the. I'm sure that you have some of the emails that people put together, based on his father's research. So that's another father-son, in the stone. They would have these, we would have these emails, and printed the emails, because there would be an incredible amount of information that was never formally written down. You know, the whole thing about the funeral roads. You know,
Yes.
Yes, the funeral roads, and no one knows about the funeral roads. And then I was able to go about and just talking to people in the countryside about, you know, we found that last kirk, in the film, that was the last place that we shot, at the Merriman Stone, that old Celtic kirk that had no grave sites on the northern side of the church, and all the graves are on the southern side of the church. May the Lord grace you with his face, and may the sun softly fall upon your grave. You know, that you'll see. And so that was a lifting stone and a place of punishment on the northern side of the church, where it was cold and dark, and the southern side of the church where all the graves were. And that was obviously an old Celtic church. And then talking about the history of, you know, how the church was involved with this, that ministers were trying to discourage stone lifting in Highland Games because people were missing church on Sundays. Because
yeah, goodness sake, that's one thing God's never done. He's never missed church over a stone lift. You know, that story was, I think it was Peter first told me the story too. You're just talking about the grave roads, and for anybody who doesn't know what that is that's where a lot of these plinths would have appeared. So they'd be carrying the coffin towards the graveyard, and on the way they would have set the coffin on top of the plinth. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Bill, please.
Yes.
And then they would have maybe played with the stones, kind of, you know, have had a few beers on the way. You know, and that's what a lot of the sort of fun side of it.
Some funeral, yeah.
Picked it up and moved on, and that was them off to the graveside. And then I've become a cloister.
Well, you know, that's when you go to Iceland, they have plinths there as well. The Dripping stones, there's a plinth that's been buried, much like where there's a plinth that actually is at the Clocnafiana.
Right.
There's another, just the Dripping stones also have a plinth, but it's been buried over hundreds of years, and now it's only about this high instead of, you know, probably chest height.
Right.
Plinths are as a recurring theme, or sets of stones, and the ideas behind stones. And you start talking about, you know, what's the sort of the deeper culture. You talk about Scotland as this windswept, barren landscape with these, you know, hard people, and then Iceland much the same way, and just like the isolated places like the Basque country, where the people of Georgia, not the state in America, but the country of Georgia, they have a stone lifting culture, or Polynesia. Saw the article I was able to write about the people of Ruatua, and they have a stone lifting festival. And we found that Japan actually has a stone lifting culture as well. That's how they started sumo wrestling.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
No.
You know, but it's great when you start connecting all the dots of these things, and you know what came from me. For example, I mean, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot about recently is obviously, because we have to move it, is the Inverstone. And from the Inverstone came the McGlashan stones, and from the McGlashan stones came the Atlas stones that we have today. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's that evolution just from a single historic stone, and all over the world people are lifting Atlas stones now. You know, which is great. And one of I'm not sure if I told you, Bill, but if we're able to run the gathering this year, I hope to have the Inverstone there. Obviously, Martin usually takes care of that for me, but we've contacted the chap who currently owns the original McGlashan stones. Now, there's only 4 of them out of the original 5. I know there was 4 originally, and then they added a 5th one. But so there's 4 of them left, and he said he'd be happy to bring them to the gathering this year. So you know, you basically have, you know, with the Inverstone and the McGlashan stones. I mean, you have the history of modern Atlas stones all in the one place. I'm not sure if it's for the first time, but certainly it wouldn't happen very often. So I'm really excited about that, I have to say.
I'm sure it would be. I've had a chance I've lifted the original McGlashan stones before, and that was fun. And just to show how far it's come, you know, the 5th stone, the 308, the 140 kilo, is known as the John Paul stone, because he was lifted. And what an unbelievable feat that was. And now it just seems like it's, you know, is it really that much of a feat?
That's I know. I mean, I suppose because strength has come on so much. I mean, one of the things obviously about the McGlashan stones was the guys didn't use tacky with them. You know, I mean, which obviously made it a lot more difficult. But even at that, with tackless stone lifting now, it has come on so much. You know, but I think, I mean, for the likes of Kaz and John Paul and all the guys and Jeff Capes back then, I mean, this was a reasonably new thing for those guys, and what they did, you know, for something that wasn't widely trained was amazing to me at the time. You know, but I love where it's gone now and where it's. You know, when you look at Tom Stockman, he's looking at lifting over 660 pounds on a stone, which is just unthinkable. You know.
I thought I would say that. Well, I think the difference is that he has stones and he trains with them. You know, back then, the time I saw round stones was at a strongman competition.
Yeah.
I just walked over and I rolled it around. I said, "Well, see what happens." I just had no idea. The other thing they used to do too, which I wish they would get back to, it makes it a very different event, is to have to carry the stones. Billy and I have done that sometimes, where you don't just lift it and put it up onto a barrel, or like we have barrels here, things, and lift it up. Yeah. You have to carry it. And that carrying 10, 15, 20 feet is, by the third or fourth stone, I can tell you that fifth stone weighs way more than you think it does.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. You know, but with the gathering this year, I mean, but one of the things that to me that's very important about the Donald Denny Games is that every event that we do, and we're going to add new events and take events away. We're going to mix it up over the years, so we're not running the same events. So but every event is done with natural stones. And this year, for the first time, what we're intending to do is just exactly what you're saying, Bill, is we're going to have 5 natural stones. We're obviously going to pay tribute to the lifting the stone on the wall at waist height with the Inver stone. So the athletes will be required to pick up the lightest stone, carry it the longest distance, and set it up under the barrel. Then the next stone will be heavier but closer. You know, so and it'll be for time. You know, so it'll be the last. It'll be 5 events. This will be the last one. So it's kind of tipping our hat and paying homage to that kind of an event where you lift a stone. You know, and you say carry it for a while, because when it's lifting and putting on the barrel is one thing, but you say when you have to carry it and run with it at speed, I'm really looking forward to that, you know, because that's really going to test the athletes. And let's say it's a new event, but it's new to the Donald Denny Games, but it's just keeping that tradition of natural stones, you know, alive, and that's what I'm very keen to do with the Donald Denny Games.
Well, there are two other times that you can. They're still on YouTube. I think it was 2013 World's Strongest Man. And because I kind of was on Colin Bryce about, you need natural stones. You need natural stones. Yeah. And so they stone lifting event. I think it was the first time they had it at Commerce in California. And it was very difficult. The stones weren't as heavy, but they had to carry them, and they just had to be able to read the stones. You know, they're tilting around, and guys were losing time. Not on the strength, but just how the stone would be tilted. But also, 1998 and 1999, they had something called Atlantic Giants, Faroe Islands. It's still, and they had a beautiful stones that they carried and put up on these boxes. So that's another one to look at, and check that out on YouTube. That's a piece, and it's got some old faces. You know, I mean, because the stones, I mean, it's Brett Nichols gathering the stones together for us on that. And I mean, we have a stone there called the Belogie stone. We named it after Belogie Estate because that's where we hold the games. And I mean, it's about the same weight roughly. I think there's a pound or two as the Inver stone, but it's a shapely stone, you know. So it's not just, you know, it's not uniform like an Atlas stone, etc. So I mean, there's certain ways you can grip it and hold it. You know, it makes it easier. And that's the same when we come to this 5-stone challenge, put them onto the barrels, that each of the stones, where they're well within the athlete's capability to lift, there's maybe not just one way to lift them. There's maybe a number of ways, and it's finding the most efficient. You know, particularly under a competitive situation, you know, where speed's important. You know, so I can't wait. I really can't wait to see how that's going to pan out. You know, but it's just, I'm so excited about natural stone lifting. You know, becoming part of competition again. You know, I mean, when you're talking about Colin Bryce, I mean, Colin contacted Brett, and because Brett's developed this event called the Nickel Walking Stones. Yep. So the stones themselves are about 550 combined. You know, so they're not the heaviest stones in the world to pick up, but once you're up, and then you have to walk with these things. I mean, they jiggle about. You know, there's only like that small point of contact with where the ring meets the eye bolt. You know, so they move around,
and you have a heavy one and a light one, so the grip's an issue, that your balance is an issue. We're doing it on grass, you know, so it's very hard. So Colin Bryce contacted Brett and asked him would he mind if he included them in the Europe's Strongest Man. So we did that over the summer last year, and it was incredible to watch, you know, because these, like you say, I mean, you just turn up and these things are there. You have no real chance to practice with them, you know. So it was interesting. Some guys were amazing at it. Some guys not. They struggled, but it was fantastic to see it. To see natural stones coming into such a high-profile event.
Well, the New Hampshire Island Games has a set of stones called the loon stones because it's they've been doing those for over 40 years, and that's a perennial event. I think Billy lifted them the first time he was probably 15, but the larger one weighs 275 and the smaller weighs 234, and so and 234. So you're only talking
100
pounds total, and we you know, we have some rules. You can hook grip if you want. Nobody does because it's so painful. Because one of the rings is very small and very thin. It's just awesome. You know, the guy John Lundstrom was he was in Steve Jeck's book of Stones and Strength. John Lundstrom.
I know the guy you mean, yeah.
Eric Sauvé and Robert Troop and Bill Bailey. Those are the guys that I'd had a chance to be around a lot in New England, and they got me really started, honestly. Dana Florence, those guys. But these stones, you pick them up in the first 10 or 15 feet, you're like, yeah, they're heavy, you know, 500 pounds. And then at 25 feet, you can just see the expression change on every guy's face. It turns into it's a force. It's a force of will. You know, are you going to sit in there and actually do something with these? You know, can you do it? It's not just lifting them. Like yesterday, Billy and I, you know, Billy lifted the stones and held them 15 seconds or so, you know, side to side, and that was, you know, 300 kilos, much heavier weight. But just imagine trying to walk with those, you know. But these are big that you can't walk with them. But it's, you know, the record's over 100 feet. I think Hafthor actually has the all-time record, but
I think Hafthor does hold the record for that one, yeah. And we'll get a sec. Currently, I think it's Luke Stoltman holds the record for Brits. We've had Mark Felix come close. Adam Bishop, I think, came very close at Europe's, you know. So, I mean, guys are taking notice of this now. I mean, it's a great event, like you say. You know, when they do the pickup, it looks nice and easy. Now, they take a few steps, and you say, okay, it looks comfortable. Then it starts to get very real. You can see the facial expressions, and you know, and then Brett actually allows a single put down, so you can put them down, reset. You've got 10 seconds, and you can pick them up and get us. And most of the guys seem to walk the full as far as they can, set them down, pick them up when they're burnt, and they don't really get much further. You know, so we're looking forward to seeing guys maybe, you know, get maybe halfway, set them down, shake their hands while they're still fresh, and pick them up and do that second half and see how far they get, you know. But I'm actually going to train for it myself. I've ordered myself a set of rings because I'd like to walk Brett Nichols' walking stones across the bridge at Pawtucket. Obviously, it's a lot easier because you're walking on tarmac, you know, so it's going to be a lot easier than, well, I'd say a lot easier, a lot less difficult than doing it on the grass. But I mean, that's an event. The loon stones, all of this stuff, it's just so exciting, Bill, just to see it all, you know, taking off.
Yeah. Billy's an athlete. He brings his friends over there, throwers, and they've increased their strength levels. I'll let Billy talk more about that with, you know, their ability to lift stones puts them in a different place with their Olympic lifts and their deadlift and their throwing ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bring a lot of the throwers on my team over for the weekend sometimes, and we a lot about stone lifting and, you know, taught them, you know, a lot about the culture and all the different kinds of stones and stuff like that. And they're actually pretty cool. The Denny stones, the Inver stone, and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. But we've lifted, you know, Atlas stones. We've lifted granite blocks and slabs. We've done Denny lifts, and really, it's actually increased their strength and pretty much their overall, you know, abilities for lifting and stuff like that.
Every time I've had people that I know have gyms and bring in, maybe make some, you know, some of those Slater molds and bring in the concrete, or just get some natural stones or sandbags. The strength levels are just increased like crazy. That's another sandbag training. Martin did a lot of that, and that's what Billy has in his dorm room at school. He's got a 250-pound sandbag, and at school. And at the end of my bed, I have a Denny ring with about 450 pounds of plates and a 250-pound sandbag.
Doesn't everybody? Don't we all?
Well done, Billy. Well done, Billy.
That's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to meeting you, Billy.
Yes, me too. I'm looking forward to meeting you too.
Just a bit of news, just a wee bit of news on the gathering then, because obviously when you have you guys down for coming over this year. So
Yes.
the date is Sunday the 8th of August. We've had the unfortunate news that Boyne Games have cancelled.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a shame, because I think all the games, the Bremar, I mean, all of the games seem to have cancelled this year. But I don't want to let that stop me. I mean, obviously it won't be on the same scale because we don't have the Boyne Games, so there won't be as many people in the area. So I'm meeting with the gathering committee hopefully this coming week. We'll have a chat about it, but I'm pretty determined that we're able to do something.
Yeah, good.
You know, and obviously in terms of the games, that we go ahead with that. Regarding the Denny Stones themselves, you know, I mean, once the restrictions start to lift over here, then I think obviously that we will be able to have Denny attempts again. I mean, that's been completely locked down now for over a year. You know, so my hope is, but I mean, obviously, the more I know, I'm going to put it out immediately and keep everybody informed, because it's a big commitment, you know, for you guys with your training, the travel arrangements, you know, the time you take out of your busy schedule to prepare for this. So I don't want to let anybody down at my end if it's at all possible. You know, so if it can be done and it's legal, I'll be doing something.
I think, honestly, Billy, also, too, we're ready to lift the Denny Stones any day of the week. We never Part two, you know, no one has to see you. No one has to watch. Just like, you know, like the host, you know, like we have, and I'll pick it up and walk around with it. And, you know, I don't need to have people see.
No, I understand. Yeah, of course,
or go somewhere. You always just want to be ready to do it because you work so hard to get to that place. Right.
And have it recorded.
Yeah. Well, most definitely. I mean, we have Brett Nichol living locally there. I mean, Brett is first on the scene. No matter who turns up, he's there to unlock the stones. He's there to help in any way he can. You know, and obviously you guys have a great sort of history with the stones. But one of the things, Billy, that you will find, no matter how strong you are when you appear, you're going to see these stones for the first time. It does create a feeling in your stomach. You know, and particularly the area where you are, you know, when you just feel all the history, and I can't wait for you to experience. I mean, I really, really hope that Dad and I can be there to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if we're not, like you say, you know, you don't need. I mean, you don't need cameras there. You don't need all of the stuff that surrounds it. But I mean, I know that you will feel it, and I can't wait for you to experience that, because your dad's felt it, my dad's felt it, I felt it. It's an amazing feeling. Yes. You know, everybody who steps up for the first time to these things, you know, they're not just a couple of boulders. I mean, there's so much more behind them.
Yeah. And Jim Spill will be there to record it.
Jim will be there for you. I mean, Jim's a great guy. And you've met Jim, Bill, haven't you? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But Jim does a great job recording it all. So
I already lifted him a couple times, and I went with when the kids were little, and I took Holly and the kids there, and it was in December, so there was this freezing rain, and David was there, and Alec Thompson and David's training partner was there with some other young men, and I remember we pulled up, and that's when they just set out the parking lot, you know, at the front door, and Holly looked. We pulled up, and the car headlights shone on because we got there in the evening, and she said, I said, that's great. So that whole night I was thinking, they are big. I hope I've got it. And it's going to be raining tomorrow. So it is intimidating when you get them and actually see the big one. And you're like, that one, it's so big.
Oh, it's an incredible feeling. It is. I mean, one of the things, Billy, that I will set up for you, that we've already been talking about it, is we're talking about my friend Brett, who he only literally lives about a mile from the Denny Stones. And if your hands are still in good shape after you do the Denny's, Brett has 2 stones there. They're called the big nickel stones.
Yes, I thought.
Their combined weight's about 800 pounds. You know, they're a great challenge. They're a completely different lift. You know, I think the Denny's are 733, his are 800, so they're heavier, obviously. You've got about 440, I think 445 on the big stone, you know, so there's a lot to be done there, you know, so that's something that if you're up for it, we can get that added into your itinerary.
If my hands are rested well, yeah, I can definitely do it. I'll give it a crack at it.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that. Yeah, you'll enjoy Brett, because Brett has so many stones there, you know, of all shapes and sizes. I mean, it's just stone lifter's heaven. Your dad's already been to the house, you know. There was less stones then when we were there, but there's a lot now.
He sent me a his back garden, and it's just stones everywhere.
Oh, for sake, it's like Nirvana for stone lifters. You know, so I'm looking forward to seeing you to do that as well, because I mean, it's the Denny stones for us is obviously is the big one that means us as friends and 2 families, but there's so much more history you're going to be tapping into when you go over there.
Right, yeah.
Yes, we're just talking about, you know, when you train at home or when you train, you don't need other people to watch you. But there's a lot to be said about in front of other people, particularly if it's going to be filmed or sent to other people. People are watching. If it's a competition,
Okay.
of what Theodore Roosevelt had written, "The Man in the Arena." Are you familiar with that? So Roosevelt, that it is not the critic that counts. Not the man that talks about how the strong man may have stumbled, or the doer of deeds may have done them better. It's the man in the arena who bleeds and sweats, who at the greatest knows the triumph, but at worst, if he fails, will never be among those cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. So it's better to at least try the process.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Getting there, and no matter what happens, it's recorded. You fail or you achieve something, but that's the journey is the real matter.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I tried a lot of comparisons to my stone lifting to all my years performing on stage, and there's kids get up on stage, you know, and you can see how nervous they are. You know, sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes they play okay, but regardless of whether they're good musicians, poor musicians, you know, whether they're successful, unsuccessful, it's having the balls to actually stand on stage, you know, to put yourself in front of an audience. So anybody that does that, but regardless of how their performance is, I have my complete respect.
Yeah.
Because I know how much time and effort it takes to practice to get to that stage. I know how much fear you experience before you step on stage for the first time. And all of that applies to the stones as well, you know, is actually, because when it comes down to it, you know, I mean, I'm going to be behind you, Billy. My dad's going to be behind you. Your dad's going to be rooting for you.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's just you and the stones.
That's right.
You know, and all all the cheering stops. It's just you. You've got your hands and those rings in it. It's an incredible moment.
Billy, you'll have no problem.
You will have no problem. You have done the training. You've got the strength. You know, you've got all of. I mean, you think of all the athletes who've gone before you. Every one of them would want you to succeed, and that's the beauty about our brotherhood. Is the support we have for each other, you know.
And you've got your dad's genes.
Yep.
You couldn't get better. You couldn't get better.
It does to you know, the abilities, you know, that I think he's got a natural ability with him, just like Stevie would have a natural ability from being your son. It's you know, you say that about stepping up and touching the stones. I always felt stronger and more than I really am when I get to a historic stone. You know, all the doubt turns into a part of what's going on with the stones. But the first time I lifted the Husafeld stone, went to carry the Husafeld stone, I tried to lift it. I carried it, and I just didn't have. You know, like everybody else, I want to stand it up like this.
Yeah.
And it just didn't fit me. It wasn't the way that I was going to do it. So I turned the stone about 90 degrees.
Okay.
So instead of being like this, more like that. It was wider. When I stood up, I said, "Wow!" Because in my back of my mind, I could feel Snorri Snorrason talking to me. He's going like, "You don't have to carry it that way. No one says you have to carry it that way." I'm telling you, that's exactly what came to my mind. Like he was,
wow.
But and also the stone knows more about lifting it than you do. You have to listen. So being able to lift a stone or carry a stone, you've got to be patient. And that's why when you get to the stone, you know, the first pulse you should check your own, not the people around you, right?
Yeah.
I went to the Arnold and got a chance to, you know, lift the stones for the first time, the Denny replicas at the Arnold to hold for time. Yeah. And why were you smiling when you were up there? I'm like, well, I'm at the Arnold and I get a chance to lay my hands on these stones and to lift them and what it means, you know, and I'm with my friends and everybody here. How can you not smile? How can you not say, you know, this is the journey's here, and why would I not?
Yeah.
Why are you smiling?
I remember you smiling, Bill. I remember actually thinking, he looks very calm.
The whole time I'm holding it, I was trying to breathe. That was the other thing. It looks like through the hole, but there's so many parts of this that's so special, and some people just don't get it. It's a rock. It means nothing. It's insignificant. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. We know what it means to us, and many more people are becoming more attuned to it. That's why I don't like people. I don't want people to go and conquer the stones or conquer or to, you know, to just do it only to be better than someone. Like better as yourself.
Yeah, be better than you were. It's a very personal challenge. There's no question about that. You know, I remember at the Arnold's. Yeah, I remember how nervous I was. And I think I'm not a negative person. I mean, I always try to think very positively about stuff. But I remember thinking, Stevie, just don't fail. I don't care how long you hold, just don't fail. And that's a very negative way to look at it, you know. But I couldn't help myself on the day, you know, because I was watching. I remember backstage, you know, Felix went over and just picked them up. I'll do. And you had to go at them and I'll do, you know. And I'm thinking, I'm not even going to try that here. You know, but we only had those bumper plates, so we only put maybe about 400 pounds in total, you know, to warm up with, you know. So it wasn't. So we basically went out there cold, you know. But I remember going into full sort of Celtic warrior mode with the audience, you know, and that's what I kind of rely on as a musician, you know, is that aggression and that, you know, that feedback from the audience. So I remember thinking at the time, you know, just do what you normally do, you know, and that's when I got the crowd going, and it really worked. And I only held the stones for about 4 seconds, but for me that was I'm very pleased and very proud of that. Wow. But I remember when I picked them up, Bill, that they came off the ground so fast, but flip. I had that moment of shock that they came off the ground, and it's not an excuse for me. I'm delighted with the time that I got, but I remember it was such a shock that they came away. I was so pleased, you know, and relieved. And then I was like, right, concentrate, and then they were down. But what an experience! And to share it with you and have meet young Billy for the first time, that was, you know, because that was something that was kind of my own wee part of the story, you know, and it was very special.
And you were fairly late.
Yeah, and you got them up, you know, to have lifted them and to have been where you were, and the people that were watching and the history of just the people that were there was phenomenal. I think it's just like in the Stoneland movie. I was, you know, I'm at the Boyne Games with a chance to lift the stones. And by the way, that was like our 4th or 5th day of lifting the stones. And
you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Well, can you lift it one more time? Because we're going to put the lights here. Over, so I think take the ability to, you know, even pick them up. And I didn't use a hook grip on Stoneland because I just didn't. I know you didn't, yeah. Because I knew the next day was the Inverstone, and we were going to Brett's, and then the last day we still had more stones. So I was trying to pace myself through the whole thing, but just being able to be there was, hey, you know, that's all I wanted. That's what I wanted, because just that, you know, we talk about a brotherhood of stone.
Yeah, of course.
That the people that have lifted them and that have shared in this journey, that's the big part. And then to have your son actually come in on it.
Yeah.
And to share that.
Yeah. that's the bit I'm looking forward to. That's what kind of inspired me about today, to talk to you guys. I just wanted to sort of for you to share your story, because I mean, people were so kind to me, and so encouraging when I was coming up through all my training, and a lot of the stuff that I put on was to say, right guys, this is where I am now, and they'll come back and that really helped me, it did, because it is, I mean, it's to have your dad there, Billy, is great, but I mean, ultimately you're the one that has to put in the work. You have to do all the training, you have to give yourself up to the numbers. So you know how all that feels, so to have encouragement from your dad and from your friends, it's very special. It is, and that's where all of the other stone lifters do play their part. They encourage you, because I know you're speaking to Brett and all those guys, and I know that they're probably saying the same things that I am, that you'll do it no problem, and we all have total faith in you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being so good to Billy as my son, because your father is I'm talking about this, one of my great heroes, but to have him actually personally give me advice, show me his training methods, it was no small part of the ability. Like you said, you have to do the training yourself, but these in the level of details, he sends me these pictures of, scaled models of the rings and the stones themselves, and you start to say, okay, with the correct approach, I've got a shot at this. But you're to me and to you and to Billy, so that's what this is about, right? Or think, and what would all this be without David Webster dragging him out of the River Dee?
Oh, for goodness sake, I know it. Yeah, that's. I always think about David a lot, and I always give him a wee call to see how he's managing through these tough times, So, but I mean, without David, the stone lifting community wouldn't be in the good place that it is at the moment. I don't think. But
the Danny Stones would never have been alive again.
Yeah, and you think of his involvement in the World's Strongest Man with the McGlashan Stones, the Atlas Stones. To take David out of that picture, where would that be now?
Absolutely.
It's great that he's there, I mean, you were talking earlier on, Bill, about Peter Martin and the emails and stuff. It's funny you should say that, because last week I was thinking about him, and I went back to my old on my messenger and on my Facebook. Him and I conversed quite a bit, and I was just reading back through all the stuff that he was telling me, and one of the things that we did talk about, and it was great, because I'd forgotten about it, was Irish stone lifting. Peter had started the wheels, they put the wheels in motion about doing some research over here, and he gave me a few leads on it, and we have finally uncovered one, a genuine. It's actually it's a number of stones on the Aran Islands. There's 3 of them. There's 3 islands, and the middle one's called Innismein, MEIN, I think it is. And I got speaking to one of the residents. It was a friend of mine. She works down in Galway, and one of her friends lives on the island, and she said her father would probably know about the stone. So I got chatting to him, and he said, yes, we have one over here. I'm not sure about the weight. He said there's one that sits at the school, which is a bit lighter, that the kids would have a go at, and then there's the bigger one for the men. And obviously when you go to different parts of the world, there's different methods, or the different sort of, you put the wind on the stone, you shoulder the stone. One of the stories that I followed up was they used to throw the stone off the back of the shoulder. But in Innismein, it's who can lift it the highest. So whenever they would go and test themselves on this particular stone, the challenge was always whoever got it the highest on the night would be the winner, so I suppose, for whatever better word. So obviously with lockdown, I can't get to the island yet, but that's coming over hopefully the next few months. I'll get a chance to maybe go on my motorcycle, take a trip down and get the ferry across and meet up with the guys. But he was an awful nice man, a very sort of soft-spoken man. So I'm looking forward to meeting him in person and get some photographs of these stones and get a bit of the history. Obviously, I'll clear it with the guys, because some of them would be very private people. So I'm not entirely sure that they would want the story out there. But if they do, I'll make sure it happens,
It'd be good, yeah.
That would be fantastic. I've said this many times, because they found, Peter Martin and Roger Davis did so much with the Welsh stones.
They did, that's right.
That's something that I've always thought. There are some English stones but no, and there are stones in Sweden and other places we haven't talked about, but there are stones in Estonia, Lithuania, all over the world. There have to be stones in Ireland. There's no not stones in Ireland. I mean, they're just lost.
But people haven't found them yet. I mean, because we're Celtic blood over here, you know. So I mean, there's no way. I'm sure even Donald Denny would have talked about coming to Bray, which is just south of Dublin, and doing like a sort of Scotland versus Ireland games. So he would have, you know, that was covered in James Graham's book. So that kind of gave me an idea as well in relation to the Donald Denny games. Obviously, we're running the Scottish ones. This will be our second year of running the games. It'll be year 3, but the second actually physical games. I'm also planning to do the first Irish Donald Denny Day in a place called Glenarm Castle, which is along the Antrim coast, beautiful area. So if they go ahead, what I'd like to do this year is run the Celtic games. So the top 4 from the Scottish games would be the Scottish team, and the top 4 from the Irish games will be the Irish team. So we'll have the Celtic games. But thinking long term, I would like to do, you know, like the 4 nations, you know, Scotland, Ireland, England and Wales. So I would like to expand it to that if possible. You know, and have games in those 4 areas. And
there was a book that was written in about 15 years ago. It's called The Origins of the British People by Stephen Oppenheimer. He's a geneticist. And he talks about how the 4 nations of the British Isles, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England, how they're actually all 96% Celtic. You know, this whole thing, they're Viking invaders and Anglo and all this stuff, mostly Celtic. And there's very little genetic variation between the 4 ethnic groups, so to speak.
Yeah.
People don't like to hear that. It made the English mad. It made the Scots and the Irish and the
But you know, with that Celtic blood, it doesn't take a lot to make us mad, you know. You know, but I'm really looking. I mean, we're talking about the future of these things. I mean, I have ideas in my head, you know, that I would look forward to seeing coming to life, you know. And I think it can only be good for it gives guys like you and me and Billy and my dad, you know, a chance to meet up and to share our passion, but also to compete. You know, because we do have a competitive element. I know that we have the personal challenge, but we also have that competitive side to us. You know, and I can see that when guys, when they lift the stones, you know, that they want to do more. You know, so that this hopefully is given stone lifters like an outlet. You know, and God knows where we're going to end up with it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out.
Very much.
So, guys, I could talk to you guys all day about this. I could, and I've loved chatting with this. But what Dad and I wanted to do was just to have a chat with you. And Billy, to wish you all the best. And we're in your corner, brother. We are.
Shouting for you, Billy, yeah. Definitely.
We can't wait to see you come out the other side of this. You know, because it'll be such an honour for us to share something like this with you, with the Crawford family. You know.
Oh.
Well, all focus will be on getting him trained up and ready to go.
I'll keep you up.
He's ready now. He's ready now.
Oh, he's good to go. Yeah, very, very much so. So it's just a case now of when, really, you know. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt of your capabilities in that area. So let's get it on. I mean, my dad and I will certainly help in any way we can, you know, to make that happen for you. In whatever form that takes, should it be a private thing? Should it be at the gathering? Should it be just a scheduled lift? You know, we'll definitely make sure that we do all we can to make it happen for you.
And I predict, Billy, that you'll really be a great. You really will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, the youngest lifters of the Denny Stones are all 18 at the moment. So, I mean, you'll be joining a very, very unique group. And it'll probably come down to 18 years and how many days for those kind of records, you know. I'm quite happy to be one of the old timers like your dad to do it. You know, it's great.
Well, I'm one of the very older ones.
Listen, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
It was lovely. The Bill and Billy, pleasure.
We look forward to catching up with you, hopefully over the summer.
Yes, definitely we can make it there. It's with the restrictions next year, definitely, but hopefully this year.
Fingers crossed. Well, I mean, so certainly in relation to what Brett and I are able to achieve this year.
Yes.
We'll keep you posted, and we'll have you over lifting the Dennies and the nickel stones and every stone you can get your hands on.
Even the kidney stones.
The kidney stones. Well, listen, if you pass our love on to the family, to Abigail,
Yes.
and to Holly and the rest of the family,
Yes.
you know, it'd be lovely. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you.
Happy Easter, guys, indeed.
Bye.
All the very
Bye.
best.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Right, so I'm going to... This...